Ivan is going to present All Models Are Not Created Equal, and That's a Good Thing. Ivan Lee is a Stanford graduate, founded Loki Studios, a mobile gaming company acquired by Yahoo. After a decade building AI products at Yahoo and Apple, he identified a gap in natural language processing technologies. And this is what led him to create Datasaur, aimed at democratizing access to NLP and LLMs. Datasaur has raised $8 million from notable investors and serves major tech companies and organizations. Ivan's journey showcases his expertise in AI, entrepreneurship, and his commitment to advancing language technology accessibility. Let's welcome Ivan.
Good morning. I see a room full of overachievers learning about AI on a weekend. My name is Ivan, and we're going to breeze through this because I want to make sure we leave room for Q&A. So a little bit about Datasaur. We started off 6 years ago as an NLP data annotation platform. I am absolutely all about data. And then we've recently developed a private LLM platform as well. We see LLM as an extension of NLP. I am about everything that is related to text, documents, and audio. Here's a sample of our customers. We were lucky to close a contract with the FBI recently. So I just learned that the US government, has more documents than the entire private sector combined, which just blew my mind. A lot of NLP there. So here's what we're going to cover very quickly. What is the best model? That is the most common question that I get, and we're going to address the nuances of that. And then we're going to talk about models and how they are going to return on your investment. So what's the best model? This is the first question that people ask me because we spend so much time here. And really, it depends, right? If we were talking in May, it would have been GPT 4.0. That was all the rage of the time. And then June, Claude 3.5 Sonnet comes out. July, Llama 3.1. August, Gemini 1.5 Pro. September, we've got GPT 0.1. And October, we've got Llama 3.2. I am running out of space on the slide. I've been doing this since July, and the pattern does not stop. So I feel sorry for all of you, right, for all of us, because it is crazy hard to keep up with the pace of innovation. This is the fastest pace of innovation we have seen in a generation. $1 trillion being poured into investing in AI. The foundation models are coming in left and right. How are we supposed to keep up with all of this? Well, this is the explosion of model options. There are 200 plus foundation models, and they're just continuing to grow. So how do we make heads or tails of all of this? Well, I think we need to start narrowing down the field, right? Because not all these models are relevant and applicable to your use case. So the very first conversation I have with my clients are, what are your parameters? What do you need to take under consideration? For example, some say, maybe they're in the healthcare space, and quality is more important than anything else. As long as we have quality, we will pay top dollar for the best model out there. Whereas others, for example, customer support or marketing, they're like, look, a human's going to review this anyway, and we really need to, make sure that it is as fast as possible and as cheap as possible, right? So these already start narrowing down what your options are, and you can kind of shave away and focus on the models that are going to be tailored to your needs. Quick shout out to Llama. I think at this point, open source models are maybe half a generation behind the proprietary models, but a year ago, that would have been absolutely unheard of. So all these models are very much catching up to OpenAI, and now I think they have their own distinct strengths and weaknesses, but I think open source is going to specifically increase the number of use cases where these models are actually applicable in real world use cases. Okay. So what I really want to frame this as is, people say, what's the best model? It's very similar to asking, what's the best car? For some folks, it's going to be this super sports car, right? Fastest 0 to 60. For others of you in the room, it's going to be a minivan, one that can hold your whole family and bring your family places together. So there is no answer to what's the best car. We need to reframe the question as, well, which model is going to give us the best return on investment? And in order to answer that question, we need to look at a few of these top questions. So for example, when we're looking at ROI for an LLM, there's a lot of the same questions we've always answered for any type of software. What are the cost savings and revenue generation potential? In some use cases, it's really easy to calculate. For example, a friend of mine is building a radiology company, and what he does is very easy to understand. It saves radiologists every single day. At the end of their day, they have to spend 1 to 2 hours writing up these reports. His technology automates the bottom third of that report, and it's going to save them 30 minutes of time a day. If you know how much you're paying that doctor on an hourly basis, your ROI is very simple, right? Another use case, I have another acquaintance who is working on pharmaceutical drug discovery, right? Now, not every single solution here is going to be a perfect fit. You know, there's going to be this long, drawn-out process. But if that drug is going to make your company millions and millions of dollars, and you have like a 5–10% chance of this succeeding and going through the entire process, now you also have an ROI on how much this could possibly generate for your company. So this is how you calculate the potential business outcome, right? So that's revenue or cost savings. Now, what is the cost of implementing the solution? Again, it's not rocket science. A lot of these are questions we've always asked for database and cloud and all the previous generations of technology. There are questions like, should we build or buy this technology? How do we maintain? How are we going to maintain and continue operating this and making sure we are allocating resources and time to bug fixing and continuing to update this? And then onboarding and training, right? You had to, if you're moving from HubSpot to Salesforce, you have to go and teach all your personnel how to learn all the quirks and nuances of Salesforce. Same thing with Gen AI. Maybe a slightly different leap, but onboarding and training is crucial. So all of these are the same questions we've always asked. But I have some of these lines in italics. Those are the new things that we have to consider. That's what's kind of unique to this technology. Unit costs. For a generation, we've never had to consider, for the first time in a generation, we actually have costs to our software. We've never had to do that before. In the past, it was all just R&D, and then you could distribute. Margins were 100% on your software. But now, these LLMs have real costs. Now, that's going to decrease the number of use cases where you can apply it, right? So now people are constantly comparing the cost of operating an LLM versus maybe manual labor, maybe other forms of automation. But the good news here is that, again, tons of investment being put into bringing these costs down. These models are getting cheaper, more efficient, hardware costs are coming down, and I think that's going to increase the footprint of this technology moving forward. Difficulty of hiring Gen AI experts, right? Building the technology in the past, it was just about, okay, how many front-end engineers, back-end engineers do we need to build this out? But for LLMs, now you need Gen AI experts. And there's not very many of us that understand Gen AI. So are you willing to pay top dollar, or do you want to buy something off the shelf where the experts have already built something that's state of the art? And then hallucinations, right? There's been a lot of conversation about hallucinations. But again, I'd like to reframe that under another term that we're all familiar with, which is just software bugs. If we take this scary concept of hallucinations and just reframe it as software bugs, bugs have always had software, right? There's always going to be some level of failure. And yeah, we're bringing the hallucinations down from 15% to 5% to 0.2%. But again, you can always put that into the equation of ROI calculations. So it's really important. I spend a lot of time on this slide in particular because as data scientists, we're used to calculating things like precision and F1 scores and accuracy. And as long as those things are good, then we're set to go. But I think it's really important for us to learn the language of the business side. How do you frame this to your executives? How do you frame this to your board of directors and get funding for your projects? looking beyond cost and accuracy, right? So in addition to the business side of things, there's also timeline. Is it going to take us 1 year to develop this, 2 years to develop it, or do we want this, buy something off the shelf and have it implemented by the end of 2024? There's security. There's a lot of discussion around security. California, EU, there's all these regulations, and people are honestly kind of confused as to what the security implications are. Preferred cloud, right? We have people who started in OpenAI, but all your data's in AWS, so what do we want to really commit to here? Data integrations, connecting it to your Snowflake, to your Databricks, to your data warehouses, data lakes, and SLAs. How long can an answer take? O1 is this amazing new technique that can actually get much smarter at logical reasoning, but can you afford to wait 40 seconds for your answer, 2 minutes for your answer, right? So there's a lot more beyond just quality and cost to consider. The good news is, all of that was, okay, a lot more stuff to consider, but there's good news. It's a healthy, competitive ecosystem now. If we're reading the language of some of the most recent releases, we have OpenAI saying, well, you know, they've always been about, we have the latest and greatest, the most powerful, the largest new models. But when you looked at their 4.0 mini announcement, it was all about how much cheaper it is, right? Google Gemini, again, we're announcing a series of improvements. It's not about the quality, but about larger context windows and how much cheaper and more efficient it is. Because we are moving from a world of pilots and POCs and does this technology actually work, all the way through to can we scale this into production? Production techniques. I only have time to share one. If there's one takeaway from this talk that you can go and put into production, it's going to be LLM distillation. This is, I think, an underutilized technique. It's going to get a lot more traction in the coming year. LLM distillation is the process of taking one of the intelligence of one of these much larger models, the really powerful ones, and bringing it down, scaling it into one of these SLMs, these small language models, right? So again, a lot of people get carried away with OpenAI has, you know, this trillion parameter model. Llama 405B must be the best one. We should use that one. Well, here's a real case study. My team did this in 48 hours. We took all the intelligence of Llama 3.1, 405B parameter, and we distilled that intelligence into its smaller sibling, the 8B parameter model. Here's what you need to take away from this chart. 405B, look at the accuracy on the right-hand side there. 76% out of the box. Pretty good. This is on an open source healthcare data set. So it's not kind of general knowledge, it's very specialized industry domain knowledge. 8B, before you fine-tune it, is 67%. 8B after fine-tuning actually goes up. It is now 80.2%. So not only are you packaging this into a model that's 10 to 100 times smaller and more efficient, you're actually getting better accuracy. What you get is, from total time to run, this is for 10,000 queries, it goes from 14 hours down to 7 hours, 50% of the time. Total cost goes from $76 down to $24, a third of the cost. We can optimize this further, but this is crazy, right? What you end up getting is an increase in quality while decreasing your costs and increasing your speed twofold. This is what we need to take this into production. Here's my analogy. I am a terrible chef, but if you put me under the tutelage of a Michelin star chef, I can learn to cook 1 or 2 dishes in 1 month that are going to be pretty darn good, right? That's what we're doing with distillation. You don't need to be able to do everything else. This 8B model is not going to perform well at general knowledge questions. But if you ask it this specific domain, this specific workflow, it can do just as well, if not even outperform, its mentor, its teacher model. Okay. Now, here's just my prediction for where we're going with all of this technology. I think that we should not be focusing on a single model. We're not going to, right now, if you ask a company, they're like, oh, we're an AWS shop, we're an Azure shop, we're a Google shop. We're not going to have that with these models. It's not all going to coalesce into a single model. This is a hypothetical company, but I think we're going to see that a single organization will use a lot of different models. And we have to think about this department by department. Is this a sustaining innovation where we continue to use Salesforce and Salesforce is implementing the AI for us? Or is this a disruptive innovation where there's going to be a whole new startup, sales startup that replaces Salesforce because they were built Gen AI first? But we can look at the future and say, well, every organization is going to make their own decision. HR, marketing, sales, maybe all of these look at the solutions out there and say, these are good enough. We want to use the off-the-shelf models. But maybe your accounting and your secret sauce departments are looking at this and saying, no, we need to invest in this. This is strategic to our organization. We need to build this out on our own. And so we're going to see not one model, kind of winner take all in this space. We're going to see a proliferation of models. A whole lot of smaller models that are good at very specific things. Your tools may change. This is what we offer at Datasaur. I'm sharing this not as a sales pitch, but you need something in your arsenal that can easily compare different models. Here we have the 4 most popular models. You enter a prompt, and you're looking at not only the quality of the results, but you're also checking the cost and the quality. Right? We're constantly evaluating and comparing this on an ongoing basis to see what the strengths and weaknesses are of these different models as they continue to evolve and deploy. Ground truth data sets, right? I see so many people, we started as a data annotation platform. I see so many people who are capturing this information from lawyers, from doctors, from nurses, and then they just throw it away. It's all used for one-time use fine-tuning. Keep that data. You keep that ground truth data. When Llama 4.0 comes out, when GPT 5.0 comes out, you can reuse that to fine-tune that and quickly get your best-in-class results. And last thing, regression testing, right? I want to reframe regression testing as prompt unit testing. We all know that unit testing is the best practice for software development. Why not do this for LLMs? You can have a list of prompts. You know what the correct completions are using that ground truth. And now you just run this and say, OK, well, how does GPT 5.0 stack up against our fine-tuned Llama model? How does Llama 4.0 stack up against our existing models, right? So being able to have this and make sure that you're protecting yourself and that knowing that whatever's out there continues to work, that's going to give you the peace of mind that this is working as you expect in production. And with that, here's my summary for everything. Key takeaways, we should stop asking what the best model is. There is no single best model, right? We want to find the best model for this specific use case, this specific scenario. We need to start talking a lot more about ROI and not just the technical details, but what kind of business returns are we getting on this, right? And in the future of Gen AI, we're not going to coalesce. It's not going to be OpenAI or Claude ruling everything as investors would like, but rather we're going to take each of these and their relative strengths and customize them to specific workflows. That's it. That's my 2x speed run through all of this.